Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, hanging out here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. I hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning and a great day overall here where sports truly meets life, and I got to put a cushion behind my back here. I got to get comfy in this studio chair right now, but I hope you're having a fantastic day and hoping that you're making the most of your day, the most of your morning and whatnot. I miss Florida like crazy. PJ is here with us every Thursday from the Sunshine State, so as you can see, I'm rocking out my Mickey shirt with a giant Mickey face filled up with little Mickeys on the shoulders and whatnot, so I'm missing my Florida, and I'll get down there soon. But happy to be here with you, like I said, inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. 5 locations, making it easy for you to get all of the things that you love from Cafe Kubal, from their chocolate chip banana bread to their chocolate chip cookies, their upstate sandwich, as well as all their breakfast, and of course the DT special pumpkin spice chai that I always put in my cup. I get mine with almond milk. You can get yours however you'd like it, iced or hot today, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital location, as well as 401 South Salina Street, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, where I was just at there with Coffee with Coach, and 208 North Townsend Street. Of course, the mobile cafe will come to your location, your place of business, your neighborhood, and you can have local delivery right to your doorstep with no delivery charge for Onondaga County. So, with all that being said, welcome to the show. You got us on social media, Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. It's a Thursday, which means that PJ is rocking on the mic for the first hour of the show, maybe some change. And then we have a guest that we've never had on the show before. So I'm very excited to make history today while talking to one of the people I love and respect the most. I look forward to all the great stuff that's coming up on today's show. MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', bringing you Papa Joe here on the broadcast to talk about a lot of different things this morning, a lot of topics to get through around the college football and NFL worlds. And then at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, Eric Santifer will be joining us from Syracuse Orange basketball history. He played for Syracuse from 1979 to 1983. He was a part of the transition into the Big East as the first Syracuse school to join the Big East when they came in from being independent. And he will also be talking with us about his book, which is Everyday God, talking about his faith, his time at Syracuse, and so much more. You can get more information about that at everydaygod.us. So make sure that you do that. Eric Santifer joining us at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time to tell his story. So, with that being stated, let's bring in the man of the hour, and that is Papa Joe, PJ, getting it done. And he's a massive Jameis and Florida State fan. Can't wait to have him here on the show. PJ, how are we doing today?
Good. Poor Florida State. Listen, I know your man is out there listening. You're my Jameis man.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that there's an article, a bad article really, in ESPN online about the last 6 years of football. It's not easy to read if you're a Florida State fan. So, at least it gives a good history about it. This is while Jimbo was there, and when he started, recruiting some rednecks and some bubbas and some thugs that didn't belong in the system. So FSU's suffering because of that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, FSU in a situation right now where, unfortunately, like you said, I mean, there's some things going on, and we just got a picture of Miss Mary T. Your beautiful bride just sent me a picture of the baby that she's watching right now. Cute little baby. And awesome. What's up, Oliver? So, Oliver, if you're listening, brother, happy Thursday, man, and I hope that you're doing well. But, yeah, PJ and I sitting here talking about a lot of different things, including Florida State. We talked about last week, Papa Joe, the fact that Florida State is in a situation where they're losing players. Marvin Wilson's gone, Samarian Terry's gone. James Blackman, probably fans are happy with this one because he really wasn't panning out, but he's deciding to transfer away from Florida State's. So, I'm a fan of what's going on in the sense of I like Mike Norvell. I had him when he was at Syracuse, so I respect Mike Norvell and I like Mike Norvell because, I've known him and I've been around him, and So I think there's a lot of good that can come from Mike Norvell, but I also know that things aren't really working out right now. So what's your take on that? I know we just talked about it a little bit, but what's your overall feeling on what's going on at Florida State? I know you're a Gator fan, so it's easy to not be fond of Florida State, but what do you think about what the goings are on in Tallahassee?
Well, I'm definitely a Gator because I went to school there, but I care about all the schools in Florida because there's enough recruiting down here to fill 20 teams, for crying out loud. The problem I have with Florida State in particular and some of the other big name schools is that when you start recruiting some of these edge players, that doesn't have the best of reputations, or maybe he got in a scrape here or there, you wind up having these guys on your team, and then perhaps they influence some other guys on a team. I'm not saying that's the case at FSU, but it all has to do with recruiting and the type of person they're bringing in there. Now I know Mike Norvell won at a very difficult place at Memphis, right? Didn't he win at Memphis?
Yeah, he won at Memphis. Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Memphis is not a top-of-the-line program, let's put it that way. Now, I'll tell you, Mike probably recruited some edge players over there to get them over the hump. And I don't, then the next coach has got to put up with some problem players maybe. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm not sure Mike Norvell is going to subscribe to that type of recruiting anymore. I think he's trying his best to get the best kids out of Florida and the Southeast that want to play for FSU. There's plenty of kids out there who would love to play for FSU, but it's not going to be easy because once your program is down, you're down and people are going to kick at you. No one's going to feel sorry for you. Hell no.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if they stay down, nobody's going to be upset about it. The unfortunate, I mean, the fans will be upset about it, but the people going up against you aren't gonna. The people that are recruiting against you aren't gonna. They're going to keep rocking and rolling. That's kind of the sad part of the, when we talk about the earth keeps spinning no matter what's going on, and but you can also look at that in a positive way and say, the earth keeps rocking on even when times are tough. So PJ, as we look at this though, and as we look at Florida State, they're in a situation right now where Clemson's coming into town, and they're going to be playing Clemson in Tallahassee. This used to be a big game. Now, Clemson got them more often than not, obviously, in recent history. But this used to be the fight for the ACC Atlantic Division. It was like whoever wins between Clemson and Florida State, that team is probably going to the ACC championship game. How far this game has fallen, what can you say about that? The fact that, watching a game like this, seeing a game like this, would normally make people get really excited, right? And now that's not the case. Now when we see Clemson, Florida State, we expect Clemson to win by 30. That to me is one of the current tragedies of the ACC at the moment.
Well, that's true. We've seen FSU the last month or so on TV. I saw the NC State game, which was awful. The Louisville game, which was awful. Clemson is going to be awful. They're not competitive. They may be competitive for a little while, but they're not competitive the whole game. Why? Because they don't have all the talent that the other teams have. And Clemson, and I'm not sure Dabo Swinney is going to feel any sorriness for them either. But he's got Trevor Lawrence coming back now finally after 2 weeks being off. So they're going to air it out and they're going to run it. You're going to see a lot of Etienne. You're going to see a lot of Clemson's runners run up and down the field. And if these FSU kids mail it in the second quarter, it's going to be a 50-0 game. Maybe more.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing right now, which is really, really tough to see, is the situation that we're sitting at right now, that this isn't what it used to be by any stretch of the imagination, and it's unfortunate for Florida State. Speaking here with Papa Joe, inside of our conversation that we always have on Thursday morning. Papa Joe here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. PJ, looking at something that happened here this week, and that is the fact that we have seen a firing inside of the Giants organization. The New York Giants have fired offensive line coach Marc Colombo. He was fired after a verbal allegedly a nasty verbal confrontation with the head coach, Joe Judge, who's in his first season there, coming from being with the staff of the New England Patriots. They replaced him with longtime NFL assistant Dave DeGuglielmo. I'm going to say something like that, DeGuglielmo. But it said, quote, "We appreciate what Marc has done, but I feel like this move is in the best interest of the team," end quote. And that's all Judge said at that, in that quote about it. Colombo allegedly was told of a plan to hire this new coach as a consultant, and Colombo didn't agree with the move, felt like he was being undermined due to the background of this new coach as an offensive line coach. And so that's added that the hands-on judge wanted to bring in, quote, one of his guys, end quote. So there's stuff going on here, and there was no physical altercation. Allegedly, there was a lot of name-calling, and so there was no physical altercation in any way in this. So the Giants firing their offensive line coach. At this point, the Giants have rushed for more than 150 yards in each of their past 3 games. So the offensive line is obviously doing something right on a team where the offensive line has struggled for years. So what are your thoughts on this, PJ? I mean, the Giants seemingly are having some light, and now they're having an issue interiorly. So you're firing your offensive line coach following getting to 150 yards at least in the last 3 games. What are your thoughts on this? As the Giants seem to have some positives, seem to be doing some things well, seem to be running the ball despite the fact that they don't have Saquon Barkley. This is the time where they decide to fire a coach for having an altercation verbally with the head coach.
Well, there's only one person can run the team, and that's the head coach. And Joe Judge is a no-nonsense guy. I remember Colombo playing for Dallas as an offensive lineman. He was a nasty SOB. So maybe he brings his nastiness up there to the Giants. I'm sure that the Giants are going to miss someone like him, but maybe he wasn't one of quote unquote Judge's guys. If he wasn't, he's going to find a job soon enough. I wouldn't worry about that. But unfortunately, that stigma may remain with him if he's not a company guy or he's not working for the best of the team. He thought his coaching was doing well, and as you brought up, the Giants are doing quite well. Maybe not protecting the passer that much, but running the ball certainly. So Colombo has a lot of good points, and I'm sure he's going to find a job somewhere. But there's only one boss, buddy. That's the head coach.
And that's the thing, speaking here with Papa Joe inside a Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here in the Cafe Kubal studios, that's the thing is, and to kind of look at the bigger picture of it, when we have these issues with coaches, Papa Joe, what can you say about the juxtaposition of head coaches who keep coaches whose rooms, their positions are not performing well, or maybe they keep a coordinator on the defensive side who's not stopping anything, or they keep a guy on the offensive side and they're not moving the ball. What can you say about the juxtaposition between firing somebody where things are going well, like the offensive line here, and then coaches keeping people where things are not working and it's very tumultuous and it's not going well? Because there's obviously juxtaposition, right? Joe Judge doesn't want to have somebody on the staff that maybe is going to question him or be a problem in the grand room of the coaches. So there's that side of things. But Colombo looked like he was improving there as an offensive line coach versus things that we've seen in certain places, including in Syracuse, where a coach just isn't working out. And, and Dino had a defensive coordinator giving up over 30 points a game, sometimes 50-plus points a game, and he kept him on. So, there is those two sides. There's the keeping the coaches that you don't understand why, and the getting rid of the coaches that were actually doing well with no reconciliation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're not going to hit a homer every time up. So, sometimes these guys work out, and sometimes you don't. I'll give you a good example. Of course, this is my background down here. I'll give you a good example. Larry Grantham is the defensive coordinator for the Gators, and he turned down defensive coordinator jobs in 3 different occasions in the last 2 years to stay with Florida's defense. And what Florida's defense doing? Sucks. Florida's got to outscore people. They're giving 30 points a game. Now, Larry Grantham's a class guy. I mean, a class guy. And they had to keep him. They had to give him more money because he was being recruited by the pros. So I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason about any of this. I fully expect that Mr. Grantham is probably going to take a hike after the end of this year and go somewhere else. And this is the case. I mean, how many coaches you got? You probably got 10 or 12 coaches: offensive line, defensive line, backfield, special teams, and all these guys got to do their job. And if they don't, they're out the door. However, if they don't, and the teams are struggling, and at the end of the year, instead of getting rid of someone in the middle of the year, then maybe you make some changes at the end of the year. Not quite so bad that way.
Yeah, in the firing of a coach mid-season, the firing of a head coach during the season, we've seen that, with the Houston Texans, a firing of a coach, that's an assistant, Marc Colombo. We're seeing that now. What are your thoughts? I know we've talked about this before, but the firing, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, obviously, if a team's losing, they're struggling, whatnot. But the Jaguars are losing; they're 1-7, and Doug's still there. So, what's your take on that? On keeping a coach around. If things aren't working, do you fire a coach during the season? Do you wait until after the season? Is it too disruptive to do it during the season? We've seen the Falcons do it. The Texans have done it. We've seen it in college football. In the NFL, I mean, it runs rampant sometimes. So, what is your take? And I know every case is different, but overall, what you could say about firing a coach, be it a head coach or a position coach, in the middle of a season?
I don't think there's any cost to that. You got to have consistency. You got to have certain standards that you play for, and maybe they're not reaching those standards, but you can't just blame it on one or two guys and get rid of them. I think that's very narrow-minded. I think coaches hired, whether it be college or pro, stick out the season, make the changes at the rest of the year. Look at Khan. I mean, Khan has struck out 3 times on coaches. I mean, you can't find one that can win for him. He's going to be the fastest, Daniel, the fastest owner to 100 losses in the NFL history. Second fastest, actually. So, and he's going to, what's he going to do at the end of this year? But he's going to get rid of his coaches. But Khan is a class guy. He may be pissed off and he's grumpy and everything because his guys aren't winning, but he's got a hell of an investment down here in Jacksonville, and he's not going to fire any of these guys during the year. He won't do that, and that's just a class move. And these other people that are maybe a little panicking, they just need to look into the mirror first.
Well, and you talk about, I mean, the fact that Shad hasn't fired anybody, and that decision to do something like that. How are you viewing Doug Maron right now with it 1-7? I say it. It's true. It's sad. But, like I said, Syracuse and Jacksonville have more than one thing in common. Doug Maron was the head coach of both. I cover both and love both, and love and appreciate them. And so, there's those connections. But the unfortunate connection is they both are 1-7 this year. They both are connected in the fact that they have won one game in 8 tries, and it doesn't look better as time is going on. I mean, maybe some improvements here and there. What is your assessment of Doug Maron? I mean, I told you that personality-wise, I didn't think it was working. I told you I didn't think this would work. After I saw it for, I mean, obviously, when he first came in and, things were going, he was on Gus Bradley's staff, and then when he became the head coach, there was some good stuff here and there, and they got to the AFC Championship game. But I told you his personality, I just don't think it's great with that. I mean, from what I see, I don't see him behind closed doors, but I just wasn't really sold on it. I liked Gus Bradley's personality, and I know he didn't win, but I liked his personality. So, what are your thoughts on Doug? Have they changed from what you first thought of him? How do you see him with, consistent losing, and now a team that's 1-7?
Well, frankly, I thought he was we're being frank here. When he was first hired, I thought it was a weak hire. And I didn't change my mind after the first or a couple of years. But then I got to know and read a lot more about him. He's a class guy. He's a big teddy bear. He's a good coach. The may not be the best head coach, but he's a good coach, and the team. Look at the team has responded in the last 3 weeks. They played good football. They should have won against Green Bay. They're playing their hearts out for this guy. They know that they're not going to get fired, but they know that he is.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do is they're going to give him both barrels, and they're going to give everything they got. And the team that I saw play against Green Bay was the team that I hadn't seen this year at all. Maybe not even the first game. They didn't play as well as they did this last Sunday. They should have won that game. Maybe if Mitchell in the game with the last 6 minutes, he certainly could find a way to score a touchdown. But they rattled the kid, and the kid didn't come through. But they played well enough to win. I mean, you go up to Green Bay and you play Aaron Rodgers up there. You're not even supposed to be a 21-point underdog. You're supposed to get killed up there. And they played hard. And when Cole ran that punt back, I said, "Shit, man, they got a hell of a chance this time."
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, this is a team that wasn't supposed to have any shot at anything against Green Bay, and the game, taking a look at it, and I look and I see that it's 17-17, and I was like, oh man, so I went out because I was out for a bit. I was out with my mom having a nice Sunday. And so I go out to the game, and after she had left and whatnot, I was like, oh, 17-17. I didn't have any expectation of this. I thought this game was just going to be potentially a blowout. And so I went over to the Wildcat Sports Pub, where I've spent the last 11 weeks in some way, shape, or form out there for college football, the NFL, or both. And so I was hanging out there and watching this game, and I was like, wow, it's a game, and now it's close. And then, you see, Jacksonville give up a drive. They couldn't find anything going, and they punt it away. Then they get the ball back, and when they get the ball back, the offensive line just struggled. And, it's 4th and 26, and you got Jake Luton almost 30 yards from a first down, and he drops back, and you got and the offensive line misses, and he's running for his life. He's running backwards. Can't even get anything off. And, and that's a horrible way to end the game, and it really stunk in that situation. And I don't put it all on Jake Luton because he didn't have the protection. So, I think Jake's doing a good job. I think that he's somebody that is fun to watch. I think that he has upside like Gardner Minshew, and I think he could step in and fill a role pretty darn well for being a backup, and does better than maybe he gets credit for, and does better than maybe what people expect of a backup quarterback. And it was unfortunate to see that the game ended on the fact that the offensive line failed to key in on guys that were trying to get to the quarterback, and they left him running for his life, which is not any way to have to end a drive where you're trying to come back from down 24-20. It was just a crappy way to end a game, really.
And I mean, I say it again. They were good enough. They played good enough to win that game. And Rodgers knew that he got out, luckily. But, you give Rodgers time, he threw for something like 350 yards, and he and Devontae Adams were tearing up the whole league. So even though he threw for those yards, the Jaguars played good enough defense to keep him out of the end zone for most of the game. Losing at Green Bay is not an embarrassment, that's for sure. And they played well. I'm very proud of them, and I think the team and the area and the fans should be proud of them, too, because they deserve better.
Is there any shot that Doug Marrone survives this time?
How can you can't justify bringing him back. Just like with Gus. I mean, it's 4 years of miserableness. I mean, at least Marrone has some offense, but, it's not right. It's not working. And it's Caldwell, too. I mean, this all started with Tom Coughlin. I mean, I've ran it on that several times. But, all these guys that are hangers-on, there are a lot of Coughlin players, or a lot of Coughlin guys. So, if Caldwell goes, Doug goes, then, Mr. Khan's got to come up with a new staff. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts his son in charge of the football team, and then maybe hire a really good general manager with football experience, and then have to trickle down and find the coaches on the field. I don't see how any coach from this team Even though they did a real good job this year, I don't see how any coach can be retained at all.
Well, and Todd Wash was retained numerous times as defensive coordinator. When he was there with Bradley, was retained under Doug Marrone as well. Doug changed his offensive coordinator, let go of Nathaniel Hackett, who he had in Syracuse and brought to Buffalo and then brought to Jacksonville. And that was a tough one for me because Nate and I go way back, and I didn't think it was the right move by Doug, but that's just my thoughts. Jacksonville, like you said, hard to keep Doug after he goes 10-6 in his first season officially as the head coach. He took over the year before for 2 games, went 1-1, but going 10-6 and then going 11-21, winning, one more in 2 years, one more game than you won in one season. That's a hard argument to go against, saying, okay, well you were 10-6 and then you won 11 games in 2 years. So what you did in 2 years is what you did in 1 year, pretty much. And then since then, it hasn't gotten any better, and the team has continued to falter and fall down here a bit. And that's the frustrating part of it for the Jaguars, who are now 1-8. They were 1-7, and then 1-8 after this loss to Green Bay. So looks like and it could be. Everybody, no matter how people feel, I think that most people, when there's a coaching change, get excited because there's something new. And if a team is struggling and there's a coaching change, I should say, then there's the thought of this is new, this is fresh blood, there's an opportunity that this could be better, and you don't know where it's going to go. So there's that. So it's not wishing bad on Doug, it's not wishing bad on the staff, it's not wishing bad on Dave Caldwell or anybody. It's the notion of, hey, when they bring in a whole new group, it's the excitement of watching the news to see who's the head coach going to be. Who are they going to hire? Why are they hiring that person? What's that person's background? What do they do? What offense are they looking to run? What defense are they looking to run? Who are they retaining? Who are they getting rid of? What are their picks? And now all of a sudden there's life to the fan base. So maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need a little shakeup. Maybe they need a little change. What I can tell you they don't need is consistently losing. They've played better. They've done better. But it's time that the Jacksonville Jaguars are able to get through some of these injuries and through some of these things like other teams that are better have been able to do, which is navigate through adversity a bit better. With that being said, we'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, Papa Joe and I have plenty to discuss in this beautiful world of sports and life, and that'll be here for you right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Stay tuned right here, and we will see you on the other side of this fast break.
It's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carbolite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carbolite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both.
It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Welcome back to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Having some fun with you, as always, on this beautiful, I can't believe, I'm kind of in like a DeLorean right now. I'm like, how is it Thursday? A little Back to the Future stuff going on here. I don't know what's happening, but it's Thursday already, somehow, some way. So happy Thursday to all of you out there. So very grateful for you being with us here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and having some fun with Papa Joe inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, as we always do every Thursday with PJ. PJ, so we welcome you into the broadcast. The sun is shining. It is a beautiful day. Get out, get positive, be happy, have yourselves a fantastic, fantastic day, and I'm so happy that you let us be a part of it. So thank you for that this morning. Like I said, inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 5 locations for you in the community, inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital, as well as 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and 324 West Water Street, and the mobile cafe that will come to your place of business or your community, and local delivery that will go right to your doorstep. Cafe Kubal doing everything they can to make it easy for you and get you the flavors that you love. If you've never been there, the time to go is today. And if you've been there plenty of times, thank you. And make sure you continue to support local business here in Central New York and beyond. And get yourself that DT Special Pumpkin Spice Chai. PJ was just telling me that my older brother, right, my meatball number 1, I'm meatball number 2, Joey, is a big fan of the pumpkin spice. So we got to get him up here and get him one of those. Or I got to just bring one. I got to sneak one and bring one down with me. Put it in, you know, my, maybe freeze it, then throw it in my luggage, get it down to Florida, and let him try it. So, with that being said, Cafe Kubal, thank you for all you do. PJ and I are talking about a lot of different things. Papa Joe, you know, a lot's on my mind when it comes to the world of sports today. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of things that are hitting me right now. You and I have talked about this before. I think this week is probably the worst week schedule-wise that I'm seeing as far as volume. But coronavirus has led to multiple postponements and cancellations. Unfortunately, 4 games have been canceled, which means that they will not be made up. And the games, Ole Miss at Texas A&M is postponed. Georgia Tech at Miami is postponed. Charlotte at Marshall postponed. Texas at Kansas postponed. Central Arkansas at Louisiana canceled. Wake Forest at Duke postponed. Houston at SMU postponed. Louisiana Monroe at Louisiana Tech canceled. UNLV at Colorado State with my guys Louis and Steve Adazio canceled. Navy in South Florida is postponed. And Arizona State at Colorado is canceled. Navy's had multiple games that they've gone through like this. Houston's had multiple games that they've had to go through like this. Papa Joe, when I read that list off to you, I mean, that's a pretty substantial list. We're talking about 11 games that have been canceled or postponed this week in college football due to COVID-19. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's obviously a lot more dangerous than we thought it was. I harken back to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, listening to them with the Donald, and they hit this thing right on the nose 6 months ago, and we didn't listen. They predicted that between 100,000 and 225,000 people would die, and we've already surpassed that, or close to it. You know, we did not take their information seriously. We didn't protect ourselves, and now everyone's scrambling. Back down here in Florida, we got cases that are up over 8,000 a day, and, you know, it's not going to get any better. Now they're putting restraints on people going out, social distancing, whatever. Who the hell does social distancing anymore? I saw that Notre Dame game with Clemson. Those kids at the field, there was 50,000 kids on a field, they didn't have any social distancing either. So
Yeah.
I don't know. The answer is, I guess we're just going to have to stay in town. You and I have talked about this several times where MT has me quarantined, and I had to go yesterday. I had to go to the eye doctor, but most of the time she keeps me quarantined, and can't go anywhere, can't do anything. So with that being said, people just have to be smart. And I read just last night before I went to sleep that the largest school system in the country is now shut down. New York City school system is shut down, which means they have to go to alternative learning, whether it be online or whatever, virtual learning, whatever. Now, I don't know if you know how many kids are in New York, but it's several thousand students that are not going to be able to go to a bricks and mortar school. So I think we probably, we've talked about this so many times. I know it's getting trite, it's getting old, but months ago we said, let's stop it, let's stop everything till the beginning of the year. Other conferences do it. Why don't the big conferences do it? Then Big Ten gets scared and they start up again because they want to play for a national championship in Ohio. Then the Pac-10 gets scared. They come back after a couple of games. It's a terrible situation. It's really not fun. I mean, it's fun for me because I'm watching my Gators score a million points. Yeah. I don't care. That's fun. That's fun for me. But I'm watching some of these games that some of these coaches don't have a full staff of players to play. I mean, geez, they look at Florida State and Clemson. I think they're a 35-point underdog, and Clemson normally has over 100 football players. I don't know if they're going to bring that many to Florida State, but I guarantee you Florida State won't have 65 or 70, and that's unfortunate there too. But there are other games that are just not fun to watch. I mean, I want the season to be over with. I want things to move along quickly. I want to see the vaccine work. I'm very impatient when it comes to something like that, and I want to be able to go out and do what I want to do, especially with my cars. So I think we're stuck. But we haven't learned anything in the last 3 months. And the two brightest people in the country, maybe in the world, told us what was coming, and we didn't listen to it.
Yeah, and we are here, I think we're a stubborn bunch, and I think America has this thought of it won't happen to us, it can't happen to us because we're America. And that's not true. The virus did not discriminate from religion to religion, from nationality to nationality, from money, people that have it, people that don't. This thing did not men, women, color. It didn't discriminate. So, that's something that's age. I know that certain ages and this and that, but, it has affected many people. And just because maybe it hasn't affected your life or taken one of your loved ones, or maybe you didn't get sick when you had it, doesn't mean you shouldn't still think about and pray about and hope for the people that are going through it, that are affected by it, that you don't get it. It's not good enough to say, well, I'm fine. The reality of this world and the success of God's creation is our ability to not only take care of ourselves, but to care for one another, to be there for one another. Because you get a lot more done. Think about if you built a house by yourself. You'd get it done. Might take you 10 years. You get it done. But if you build a house with a community, that thing might be done in a few months. So, there's something to be said about working together, listening, doing your research, and being smart. I wash everything. I wipe down my equipment. When I'm doing any public event, people see it right in front of their face. I wipe it all down. I take at least 20 minutes doing it. And not only that, but we don't have to wear masks when we sit down. And I ask people to wear masks. I think Carl, San Filippo, and I, we're because it's the two of us and whatnot, we haven't worn the mask sitting. We've worn them standing. But like with the high schools and stuff, with everything going on in the internet, like they all wear their masks. And I ask them to wear their masks when they're sitting down as well, even though they don't have to. And so, it's just taking extra precautions. I wash my hands consistently, but I always did. And I keep, Purell in my pocket when I'm walking around or I'm going to the grocery store or something like that. I try to not touch something unless I'm going to buy it. I do try to be good about that. I know sometimes, you look at stuff and whatnot, but, it's just what you have to do. I wear my mask everywhere I go, and that's just, that's life for now. Listen, I would rather wear a mask for a couple months than the rest of my life. But if we can't do this stuff and do it together, we're going to keep doing it. And that's the funny thing about it. The people that are frustrated and mad and don't want to wash their hands and don't want to wear a mask and don't want to do this and don't want to do that, you're going to make it take longer. So your refusal to do so is going to expand the amount of time we have to do it. So the irony is, if you want to be selfish, in order to be selfish, you got to be selfless first. If you do what we're supposed to do, then you can go back to being selfish and not caring, which I hope you don't, but it's just the reality, Papa Joe, that if we all listen to the rules, look at New Zealand, look at Australia, look at these places where it's like if you listen to the rules as a community, things get better. It's when I'm listening to the rule and you're listening to the rule, and then Bob, Joe, Steve, Pete, Jill, da-da-da-da-da down the road are not listening to the rules. You and I are not only potentially could get sick by being around these people, but they're making it take longer for everybody. So being selfish more than ever is literally, consistently, one of the worst things that you can do in today's world.
That's right. I think we're in for a rude awakening here in the next couple of months. It's going to carry over the holidays. People are going to be upset, but people won't be traveling as much as they did. I'm not. So.
But I can tell you something, PJ. I came up with a theory, and I think it's going to work. Because you're supposed to have a limited number of people in your house now, and you're supposed to keep your pod smaller, Thanksgiving is considered like one of the, if not the biggest fighting holiday of the year. So for Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that, if you have in-laws that drive you nuts, you now have an excuse to not go see them. You could just throw your hands up in the air and go, Corona, I don't know what to tell you. You don't have to invite, that uncle that talks about politics and gets everybody mad now. Like, you have an excuse through Corona to not have to see people on the holidays that you were forced to see in the past. You now have a way out. So with all the negative stuff, I always glass half full and positivity. So I can tell you now, utilize Corona's situation, folks, to your advantage to get the stress out of your life. And if somebody's bugging you and your family or friends in the neighborhood, all you got to do is go, Corona, I mean, it's a crazy thing. I guess I can't see you this year. And now you have a way out that you didn't have last year.
Well, that's true. I don't have such people in my family. I don't want to talk religion, and I don't want to talk politics at all to anyone, except when Mary T and I are yakking together. But, there's football this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch some of these games. Unfortunately, Clemson, Florida State's not going to be one of them.
No, not by any.
Syracuse. I got Syracuse down here somewhere. Who they playing?
Syracuse is playing at Louisville. Let's get into that. So Syracuse is playing at Louisville as Papa Joe joins us here inside of the Cafe Coupal Studios for Wake Up Call. Syracuse playing at Louisville. Since Syracuse joined the ACC and Louisville joined, Louisville joined a year later. So since Syracuse joined in and Louisville joined in and they became ACC opponents, Syracuse has only defeated Louisville as an ACC opponent once since they started playing each other in the ACC in 2014. So only one time in their entire time in the ACC together, never on the road. Syracuse is 0-3 at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. Not only are they 0-3, they've given up 40-plus points each time, lost by double digits each time, with different personnel, different coaches at times as well. So Syracuse's track record against Louisville is horrible in the ACC, and they've never beaten them in Kentucky, and they not only have not beaten them, but they've given up substantial points and allowed Louisville's offense to have fantastic, if not career potential days against them when they're playing in Kentucky. So history, recent history, is highly against Syracuse. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that, PJ? if we can get him here. We may have lost him here for a second, so we'll see if we can get him back here. PJ, can you hear us?
No, I'm breaking up here bad here.
All right, so
Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can get to something else. Maybe it's you. I don't know.
So we'll take a fast break. We'll come back with Papa Joe right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, also on Facebook Live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. Hanging out with you here with Papa Joe. We were talking before the break here with Papa Joe about Syracuse, the setup of this upcoming game against Louisville, the fact that Syracuse is playing Louisville on a Friday night. It's Friday Night Lights, so that means that my pregame show, folks, will be on Friday. So make sure that you stay tuned for that and stay close to our social media to find out the time of that. But it will be this Friday, November 20th, and you can get more information on exactly the time of when that live show is going to go off, and that will be on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT to get that information on what time our pregame show will be this Friday, November 20th, for the road matchup. Syracuse, what I was saying to Papa Joe is Syracuse and Louisville have become ACC foes as of 2014. So they had a history before, but in the ACC since 2014, Syracuse has only defeated Louisville one time as ACC opponents. They're both on the Atlantic Division side. This year there is no divisions, but you know what I mean for future reference. But the ACC, having Syracuse and Louisville inside of it as ACC conference foes, they have played numerous games. They play every single year. And since 2014, Syracuse has one win against Louisville. That win came in Syracuse. On the road at Louisville at Cardinal Stadium, Syracuse is 0-3 as an ACC foe to Louisville. And not only are they 0-3, but they've allowed 40-plus points each time. So they lose by double digits, they allow a ton of points, and they haven't won. That's the MO of Syracuse on the road at Louisville. Papa Joe, what are your thoughts?
Oh, that's a tough road to hoe. No pun intended there. I watched the Louisville-Florida State game, and Louisville looked awful good. I don't know what the record is, probably 500 or something like that, but you're going to have a tough time keeping up They're a very speedy bunch. They play fast, which is typical for a Louisville team. So I think, Syracuse not being as quick as the other teams, I think anyone playing fast against Syracuse is going to be dominant. So I'm afraid you're going to have a long afternoon.
Yeah, and the thing with Louisville, you would think they're better, like you said, but they're only Syracuse is 1-7, Louisville's 2-6. So, but the reality of it all about Louisville is they came into the season ranked in the nation's top 25. They didn't really back that up. They lost to Miami in what we thought would be a marquee game. It was a Saturday night special, and Miami was able to take care of them in that matchup. Outside of that, Louisville really hasn't done much of anything. They defeated Western Kentucky and Florida State. Those are their 2 wins this season. That's it. And outside of that, they lost at Indiana, they lost at Georgia Tech, at Pittsburgh, against Miami, at home against Virginia Tech, and at Virginia most recently. And the one game that makes it kind of an enigma, PJ, though, is that Notre Dame is a pretty good team, pretty strong team this year, doing good things, better than I thought that they would look. And Louisville went to Notre Dame, to South Bend, Indiana, and they only lost 12-7. They held Notre Dame to 12 points. They lost 12-7 in the game. That game's the game that, you kind of circle, and I was talking earlier on in the week with Julian Wiggum about it, that, you circle it and you kind of scratch your head about it, like, how could this happen? And what I mean by that is, with this Louisville team not really being worth the top 25 ranking and losing that top 25 ranking, not really being, they not really earning it so, and then seeing the fact that amidst all of this not so great in their season of 2-6, that they held Notre Dame to 12 points in a 12-7 game with Notre Dame at home and Louisville on the road. Do you make any sense of that game that Louisville played against Notre Dame? Because that's a loss, but they held them down, and they held Notre Dame to a really tight, low-scoring game that nobody else has this season. And at the same time, beyond that, Louisville really hasn't done a great job overall. So how do you make sense of what they did against Notre Dame versus the fact that they really haven't looked that great this year?
Notre Dame is still an enigma to me. I know that they played Boston College last week. I actually thought Boston College had a chance to beat them. But Notre Dame is one of these teams every year where they always get all the press, they always get all the rankings. Kelly gets all the good players, and they don't win. Win. They don't win the championship.
Yeah.
So I don't know when's the last time they won one, but it's not going to get any easier for Notre Dame this year at all. Louisville is played them tough. Louisville will be a formidable opponent for Syracuse this weekend. I think you're going to come out on the short end a lot.
Yeah, I don't see Syracuse winning this game. If Syracuse struggles against the run, and Syracuse will be facing off against a running quarterback in Malik Cunningham, who is more than capable of leading the team with his arm and with his legs. And even, and this is a perfect setup to a point that I've made. When Louisville is not good on the season, and look at this season, they're 2-6, Syracuse goes on the road, normally toward the end of the season to play Louisville, and they get trounced. They give up a bunch of points, they lose by a lot, and that's been clear every time they played them there. 0-3, 40-plus points given up. They make Louisville look good in seasons where Louisville is not good. And this is a perfect setup to that. That if Louisville is able to score 45 points, beat Syracuse by 20 or by 15 or by 14, and have that record of 2 wins going into it, this is the stage that I've seen that I've seen before with Louisville. They're not that great. They're not going to a bowl game. But when Syracuse comes to town, they have, what looks to be a highlight reel. And it's just tough. It's really tough. And this is not the game that you want for Syracuse. But really, Syracuse has struggled all throughout the season. There's some good things in Jacoby and Morgan's ability to get to the line, ability to lead, get down the field, make a bunch of completions. He's got a 70.3% completion percentage, which is good. He's looking for the tight ends, which wasn't happening with the quarterbacks before him, with Luke Benson and Aaron Hackett actually getting the ball out to them. Syracuse has done some things against the run, but they haven't stopped it by any stretch of the imagination. And, they do have weapons. It's just about utilizing it and trying to find the good here. Dino's got to open the playbook, run some trick plays, run some pitches, run some reverses, and see what you can do. At this point, you have nothing to lose. You're 1-7. You're not going to a bowl game. You have absolutely, positively nothing to lose by throwing the kitchen sink at a team. And I think at this point, Papa Joe, they should do it.
Well, is there any talk about replacing Dino up there in the last week or so? Because we hit him pretty bad last week.
I think fans are frustrated, fans are confused, fans are fatigued. But as far as anything coming from the school, no. And, that's where we sit at. This is year number 5 for Dino. And it's 4-8, 4-8, 10-3 with seniors coming from the staff that's Scott Schaefer's staff recruitment. So that 10-3 season came from a lot of the guys that Schaefer brought in. And then 5-7 and now 1-7. So, it's really tough that if you, again, like we said about Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone won almost as many games in 2 seasons that he won in 1 season in Jacksonville. Well, in the case of Dino, you look at 10-3, then 5-7, 1-7. Dino could arguably at this point, with the way things are going, win 6 games in 2 years after winning 10 games in 1 year. So that it looks like Doug Marrone, but worse. And it doesn't seem like recruiting's getting better. It doesn't seem like the connection to the community is getting better. They're definitely not recruiting here. And it's also an issue with the alumni feeling completely closed off. So, I don't see anything positive on the Hill as far as decision making. And I'm just hoping that Dino, who I respect and I feel like I have a good relationship with, I hope that Dino can just have a change of heart, welcome the alumni in, admit that he's not perfect, start recruiting locally, build a 5-hour radius. You what?
Remember what I suggested to you last week about you compiling a speech,
Yeah.
go give it somewhere,
Yeah.
and hit it hard, and see if it'll wake up some people. Because if there are more people pissed off about the situation than you are, then the more the better. So maybe it'll wake someone up. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, well, you always hope that there's a wake-up call, hence the show name, Papa Joe. So
That's right.
with that being said, our guy Mr. Greg is a big fan with Papa Joe and a huge fan of Papa Joe's undying, unconditional, forever love for Jameis Winston. So I got to ask you, PJ, we can jump right into our predictions on the NFL side of things. Jameis Winston is now a starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. For the second year in a row, Drew Brees going down with an injury has put them in a situation to start their backup. Last year, it worked fantastically with Teddy Bridgewater, and it got him a job with the Carolina Panthers as the starting quarterback. This year, it's famous Jameis. And Jameis Winston is now the starting quarterback of the Saints. And before people go, he's going to lose, he's not going to be able to score, they're playing the Falcons, and they're playing at home. They're going to be in New Orleans, in that beautiful, beautiful city that I love very much. They're going to be in New Orleans, playing against what is arguably the worst defense in the nation, as far as giving up points and whatnot. What do you think about your guy who you have campaigned for, petitioned for, fought for, and wanted so badly for Jameis Winston to be a starting quarterback? Now he is, Papa Joe. What are your thoughts on Jameis Winston taking over the reins of the New Orleans Saints?
Boy, I think the Saints are delusional. I don't think that Jameis is going to work out for them. But they're a bright outfit. It's all up to Sean Payton. He's the one who put the deal together. If Jameis can get his head into the game, then he's got all the talent in the world. He just doesn't have a head. You got Taysom Hill, which I love to see him play, but I don't think he's going to be a starting quarterback either. So, I think Sean Payton is going to be mixing a lot of stuff between the two quarterbacks. Jameis came in last weekend and did a good job, took care of the ball, completed some passes. That's what he's supposed to do. I mean, he's not going to throw for 400 yards. No, that's not the way Sean Payton is going to run this deal. They're going to get a heavy dose of Alvin Kamara for as long as the guy can stand on his 2 feet, and they'll do a lot with him. And they've got the wide receivers that are perhaps maybe in tune with Jameis and Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a strange guy. He's a very unique individual on the football field. Can do so many things.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that he didn't put Taysom Hill in there instead of Jameis. I know he flip-flopped a little bit, but Jameis has a big-time arm. There's no doubt about that. He just doesn't know what to do with it.
Famous Jameis doing his thing. Who do you have winning the game? Is it going to be the Falcons or the Saints?
No, I like the Saints in that game. I think that they're playing at home, and they certainly, Jameis will give them a little bump. Jameis will maybe score a touchdown or two, and Taysom Hill will do his thing. Maybe he'll come in and do the Wildcat, whatever they do. But it'll be interesting. I don't think the Falcons know what's coming. They have no idea who to prep for. I mean, you prep for Jameis, you just drop everyone back, and he's going to throw an interception. If you prep for Hill, then you got to bring everyone up and stop the run or stop the option or whatever. It'll be fun. I'm going to watch that game if I can get it.
And I think that that's a great assessment of it. Jameis, you put him out there, you drop everybody back. Taysom, you got to bring everybody forward. I think that it would behoove the Saints to utilize both of them, and in such a schizophrenic way that the Falcons, have no idea what the heck's going on. I would think that you take a defense that's already not that great and you throw both things at them. They're not going to know what to do. They're not going to know what hit them, and they might be left watching. Speaking of being left watching, the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming into town. They're the only undefeated team in the NFL. They're 9-0. Jacksonville is 1-8. So it's safe to say that these two teams are in different places in their franchise career. What, if anything, can Jacksonville do against Pittsburgh? And who do you have?
Oh, this is going to be a tough game to watch. Mike Tomlin is a classy guy, a classy coach, classy gentleman. He's in the newspapers down here. They have the utmost respect for Jacksonville. We're not playing a WAC team. We're playing an NFL team. He's saying all the good things. In the meantime, T.J. Watt is licking his chops. Roethlisberger's licking his chops. Can't wait to come down here and start throwing the ball around. T.J. Watt I saw his game last week. He's an absolute beast. He's better than his brother right now. I think the other brother's on the end of his career maybe, but T.J. Watt is almost unstoppable. And what I noticed with the Pack game is the tackles, Robinson and Taylor, had some difficult times against very mobile defensive ends and tackles. And eventually there, like you called it earlier, is that they just simply caved in and they just killed Luton in the last couple of 3 times they had the ball. So, it's going to be Pittsburgh's defense is for real. I wouldn't be surprised if they shut them out, shut Jacksonville out. I don't see any way how Jacksonville can score based on the defenses that I've seen the last 2 weeks with Pittsburgh.
Well, the thing that I really like about Jacksonville is James Robinson. They're playing not great, and they're not winning, but James Robinson doesn't know that. That man is getting over 100 yards on the ground. He's awesome in fantasy football. Reality-wise, he's doing great. Leonard Fournette's rushing 8 times for 6 yards, and James Robinson, undrafted out of Illinois State's going 20 carries for 159. So, keep doing your thing, James Robinson. I'm so grateful that you're there. And big shout-out to Illinois State. When I shouted out James Robinson, they reposted it and showed some love. So, shout-out to you, Illinois State. Obviously, the staff in Jacksonville knew something about this guy that other people didn't know, and I'm so happy that they did. And I'm so happy that you knew something about him at Illinois State to give him a chance. Last game before we jump to college, PJ, Kansas City at Vegas. We finally got a good Sunday night game here. It's been a few kind of but this one's a good one. Kansas City at Vegas. The last time they played each other is the only loss that Kansas City has all year. The Vegas Raiders are a lot better than I anticipated that they would be. Kansas City is doing what they do. Kansas City is 8-1. The Raiders are right behind them in the AFC West at 6-3. And like I said, the only loss Kansas City's taken was to the Raiders, and not only that, it was at home in Kansas City, Missouri. In the game, both quarterbacks, Derek Carr and Pat Mahomes, threw for 22 completions. Carr did it on less attempts than Mahomes. Carr had more yards, 347 to 340, and he had more touchdowns and interceptions, 3-1 to Pat Mahomes, 2-1. What are your thoughts on this game? Did Kansas City learn their lesson, or will Vegas be the only team to not only beat Kansas City, arguably, this season, but beat them twice?
Well, Andy Reid won't get beat twice. Not the Chucky. Chucky's got a good team. He's finally got a quarterback. Carr is finally playing like I thought he should have been played a couple years ago. Pat Mahomes is he's too good. I read an article yesterday about the best tight end combination in football right now is Mahomes to Kelce. And they have an antenna between them that other quarterbacks and tight ends don't have. Even talking Brady and Gronk. These two are really melded at the head. And they seem to, when Pat needs yards, Kelce knows where to go, even if he breaks the play down and then moves into the open space. I love watching these guys play. I love watching Kelce. I mean, Kelce is 6'5", 260 pounds, and beats linebackers off the line and overshadows defensive backs. I wouldn't want to try to defend this guy or even tackle him. So I look for Kansas City to really get back.
Yeah, I got Kansas City in this game. I don't see them losing twice to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Raiders will try and give them everything they can, but I ultimately am going to side with the side of Kansas City. We're going to flip to college football here before we let Papa Joe go on the day. And so, PJ, for college football-wise, as we get into this, and also, folks, article for you to read about I'm going to be looking into this, but about the fall of Florida State over the last few seasons that Papa Joe has alluded to here on the show. There's something to be said about what's going on there. Unfortunate for my guy Evan, and being a big fan of that, and it's very unfortunate. Western Michigan did it again, 52-44. They defeat Central Michigan in a rivalry game last night. My guy Tim Lester is 3 and goose egg, baby. 3 and how? So very happy for him on that one. PJ, we got some games to get into. We've already stated that we're picking Louisville over Syracuse. Indiana at Ohio State, quite frankly, could be the game of the week. It's at noon Eastern time on Fox. Indiana is a top 9 team. Ohio State is a top 3 team. I mean, I think in the other poll it's 10-3 or something like that. But 2 top 10 teams facing off against each other. Does Indiana go 4-0, or does Ohio State? Does Indiana go 5-0, or does Ohio State go 4-0?
This is the game I want to watch. I'm not an Ohio State fan, never have been. Ever since Urban Meyer left us and went up there and tore apart that place. Indiana has a good chance of winning this game if they keep the ball on the ground and take the pressure off their defense and keep Fields off the ground, off the turf. Indiana surprises me. They are a really, really good team. And frankly, the last time I saw them, as fast as they played, they looked like an SEC team, for crying out loud. And I really I think that they can pull an upset here. I mean, they're down by 10. I mean, I think that Indiana plus 10, but this could be closer than that. This is going to be a good game to watch.
So, who are you rocking with? Are you picking Indiana?
Indy, I am.
Okay.
I am.
And I will also be, as I have all season, going with Indiana. I am riding with Stevie Scott and the crew. I will stay with Indiana to defeat Ohio State. I believe I had faith before, and now people maybe starting to get to know Indiana and whatnot. I've picked them every week. I will pick them again this week. I'm going with Indiana in this matchup. And the next one to bring up with you, PJ, is Kentucky at Alabama. Kentucky's played spoiler before. Alabama's the number 1 team in the country, thanks to Clemson losing. So what are your thoughts as Alabama every year rises to 1 at some point? They're playing Kentucky at home. Any chance that Alabama trips up in this one?
No, they haven't played in a couple of weeks. Nick Saban's anxious to get the guys on the field. This one's going to be ugly, I think.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Alabama in this matchup as well as PJ. Papa Joe, unranked. They were ranked for 3 weeks for no reason, and I questioned why. I question why you would rank anybody that's 0-0 when other teams were 5-6 weeks into the season. Well, since being ranked, they are now unranked because what people thought they were and what they are was, unfortunately for Michigan, vastly different. They've won their first game at Minnesota. They've lost since then to Michigan State, at Indiana, and against Wisconsin. Wisconsin embarrassed them, 49-11. Now they're playing Rutgers with Greg Schiano. What do you think about Michigan at Rutgers? And does Jim Harbaugh, who's made it through, and this is not me wishing bad on him, it's a question, would never wish bad on anybody ever. Has Jim Harbaugh finally seen his final days in Michigan? Will he get fired in the middle of the season, and will Rutgers get this victory?
Well, we've talked about that. It's not kosher to fire a coach in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
He's going to lose his job, certainly. And I like Rutgers in this game. The Rutgers looked good the last couple of weeks. I like Rutgers.
Yeah, I'm going with Rutgers as well in this matchup. They're at home, and Michigan is just looking absolutely positively terrible at this point. Final game, PJ. I'll go to the SEC for you here, and we'll talk SEC for a second as we get ready for Eric Santifer to be joining the show. So your Gators are playing at Vanderbilt at noon Eastern time on ESPN this Saturday, November 21st. The Gators are in the top 6 in the nation. Thoughts on this?
Well, they're averaging 45 points a game against SEC opponents. That should tell you something. Kyle Trask is a genuine Heisman Trophy candidate, probably the front runner. The kid is unreal. He's really locked in. He's got so many weapons down there. You know, think when you start talking about these SEC teams, and the North catches up eventually, but they recruit so many fast kids. And Florida has 5 or 6 of these little guys that are bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
They can't wait to play, and they get on the field. They get their number called. Trask sometimes throws to 8 or 10 different receivers to complete a pass. That's how loaded Florida is on the offensive end. Defensively-wise, they suck. But Vanderbilt, this is going to be a terrible game for Vanderbilt. Maybe this is a good time for Florida's defense to get healthy, but Florida will score a lot of points quickly.
Maybe it's a good time to, if they can, put in those backups, give them experience so we could see what the defensive players that are waiting in the wings can do. And so I'm picking Florida as well. Mississippi State came in roaring against LSU, getting a victory in Mike Leach's first game as their head coach. And then after that, the wheels just kind of never... It's like the wheels were on and the team was racing at NASCAR, and then somebody found out that the hubcap wasn't here and this one wasn't screwed in, and now the wheels are kind of rocky and we're kind of rumbling up and down the road, kind of bouncing a little bit. Mississippi State is bouncing into Georgia. What do you think?
Mississippi State, now Georgia won't let this one slip by. Leach will come up with some weird stuff, I'll guarantee you that. But Georgia to win this game handily. I'm really surprised that Mississippi State is this poor this year. I thought that Leach would give them a little jump start, maybe a 500 team. They may still be 500, but they're not going to win this week.
That coming from Papa Joe, and those are our picks for this week inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. As always, PJ, I appreciate you every single Thursday being on the show, and I appreciate you every single day of my life beyond that for so many reasons. And we got a message today that said Radio Gold every Thursday. So positive for you, and said love Papa Joe's insight. So PJ, you're what'd you say? What'd you say?
Thank you for that. Whoever was that, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So positive words coming to you, PJ, and as always, deservedly so. I look forward to talking with you soon. I send my love down to you, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, see you later.
Bye-bye. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we get set to have Eric Santifer join the show for the first time ever. I'm very, very excited to have him join us right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. So hang out with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we will be joined by Eric Santifer right after this. And I'm very excited. Very, very much looking forward to this. On Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. So hang out with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code ABS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavocolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avocolis, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.